Good morning, Grizzlies.
I'm Sophie.
And I'm Karsten.
The Epstein Files are a vast collection of documents, evidence, and court records related to the criminal investigations and civil lawsuits involving the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The files have had a significant public interest, largely driven by the high-profile individuals in Epstein's social circle and theories of a wider conspiracy. When it is released, the majority of documents will be redacted for viewers. How it will be released is by going to the House of Representatives, then to the Senate, and finally the President decides whether to open it or not. President Trump, in his campaign, promised to release the files to the public, and just recently, that has been put into action. Jeffrey Epstein was arrested in 2006 and died allegedly by suicide in 2019. So you have to ask, why is this taking so long? Reports from various human rights organizations and U.S. politicians indicate a significant number of Christians are being killed and kidnapped by Islamist militants, mainly in the northern and middle regions. Islamic militant groups target farming communities in Nigeria, averaging about 30 deaths per day. We urge people to pay attention to this humanitarian crisis and take action to protect vulnerable communities. In other news, 2 years into a war, Sudan still remains in a crisis between the Sudanese armed forces and the paramilitary rapid support forces. More than 150,000 people have been killed, and about 12 million people have been forced from their homes. It has led to famine and claims of a genocide in the western region. There have been several series of peace talks in Saudi Arabia, but they have all failed. As of right now, the international and regional actors are centered on working on a ceasefire and finding a political solution. As some of you may know, pennies are trash now. The U.S. Mint estimates that there are 300 billion pennies in America just lying around. The government has no plan for these coins in the future. Now, it would be impossible to completely get rid of the coins. They are ceasing creating them completely. So, penny for your thoughts? Now, on to local.
On the Oregon coast this week, two separate events are drawing attention. In Newport, activity increased on November 12, 2025 at the city's small ice facility as officials carried out a series of scheduled immigration check-ins, drawing renewed interest from nearby residents and businesses. Just a day earlier, on November 11, 2025, a gray whale was discovered beached along the shoreline in Icats, prompting marine biologists and local authorities to respond quickly as crowds gathered to watch. Both incidents have become major talking points in their respective communities, highlighting how federal operations and environmental events can converge along the same stretch of coastline. Now on to entertainment.
Hello, I'm Tommy here with your entertainment news today. I'm talking about Stranger Things Season 5, coming to Netflix here soon on November 26, 2025. It will be the final season from the show. Hopefully it'll tie up all loose ends, and this season might bring us some stranger things than usual. Now shifting over to news for our video games fans. Valve has announced 3 new hardware products that will expand the Steam hardware family. These, of course, being the Steam Controller, Steam Frame, and the subject we'll be focusing on the most, the Steam Machine. According to the Valve president, Gabe Newell, these are being released in response to the rampant demand of PC games. Valve is shooting for this new Steam machine to support constant positive performance with every game on Steam, easy replacement, and customization of its magnetic front panel. Hopefully this new Steam machine will live up to its hype, as it is said to come out in early 2026. Finally, as a treat for our musical and film fans, Wicked for Good is in theaters November 21st, 2025, which as of this recording is today. So if you're watching this, then now's as good a time as any to go to the movies and settle down with some popcorn, because there is no official date for when you'll see it after it's in the cinema. Let's hope this movie is gonna be wicked. Now on to sports.
Welcome to sports. On the 14th, former Seahawks safety and member of the Hall of Fame, Kenny Easley, died of kidney disease at the age of 66. He was on the Seahawks for 7 seasons and made 5 Pro Bowls and 4-time first-team All-Pro, and was AFC Defensive Player of the Year in 1984. He was on the 80s All-Decade team and was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2017. On another sad story, Jets cornerback Chris Boyd is in critical condition after being shot in the abdomen on Sunday morning, around 2 o'clock. He was put on IR after being injured in the shoulder during practice in August. On to the next story, Jake Paul will take on Anthony Joshua. The fight will take place on December 19th on Netflix. There will be 8 3-minute rounds. Joshua is 2-time unified heavyweight champion. He will need to weigh less than 245 pounds by the fight. They will use 10-ounce regulation gloves. Jake Paul said, "This isn't an AI simulation. This is Judgment Day." And on another note, there will be 3 Thanksgiving games. The Lions will be taking on the Packers, the Cowboys will be taking on the Chiefs, and the Bengals will be taking on the Ravens. On to weather with Memphis.
What's going on, Grizzlies? I'm Memphis, and today I'm bringing you this week's weather. So first up, we're going to start off on, I believe, the 23rd with some showers. It's going to be a little rainy, but into a little bit more into the week, it's partly cloudy, so there is going to be a little bit of sunshine. We get to see a high of 54, 52-ish, 48. You know, kind of pretty good highs for this time of year. But then into the rest of the week, we're going into showers, highs of only 49, 52. There's going to be quite a bit of rainfall, so I'd recommend get some umbrellas, some jackets, if maybe you need to get inside, maybe go watch a movie or something. Now, just keep dry, all right? So that's all for weather. Heading it back to the desk.
Wow, the weather this week sounds pretty good.
I actually love rain.
I do too. It's amazing.
Yep, it's way better.
Can't live in the Willamette Valley without liking rain. Mm-hmm. That's true.
Yep.
All right. Well, now on to Cody with his history segment.
Thank you. We all know the famous story about the Pilgrims, how they left the old home of England and come to what's now the state of Massachusetts so they could follow their religion their way. But that's not the whole story. Come with me as I tell you the story thing going as long as I can before the people in the sound room start telling me to hurry up so we can finish the show. Real fast, before the story begins, the Pilgrims and Old England used an old calendar that was 11 days different than the rest of the world. So the days are different than it is to us today. Now that's the story began. Originally, the Pilgrims left England and went to the Holland, because they believed that there was no true church in England, especially after Henry VIII. So they lived there for a couple years for 11 or 12 years, depends on what source you want to believe, from 1806 to 1808 to 1820, until they decided that they should not stay in the Hollands because they believed they were losing their English identity and they feared that their children would become more Dutch than English. So they went back to England to ask the king if they could make a colony in the New World. They went to the current king at the time, that was James I, or the 6th, depends if you lived in Scotland or England. And he decided they could make a colony in the Hudson River, that's now New York, much different than what we believe today. So they decided to go there on 2 ships, not just the famous one. They also borrowed a ship called the Speedwell, but it kept getting damaged in storms, so they decided just to go on the Mayflower, the famous one. So it took them 66 days to cross the Atlantic, and when they finally arrived in the New World, they found out they were more north than they needed to be. So they tried to start heading south, but because, at the time it was getting close to winter, so all the storms were bad. So they had to go back up, and they eventually found the landing of what would later they would make the colony of they finally decided to make the colony where we now know it today as Plymouth. And after, all the stories we have heard, they started to starve to death because when they finally arrived, it was too late to start planting food, and they did not know how to make food on the American soil. But eventually, the Native Americans helped them. They survived the winter, and they had the first Thanksgiving. But to them, it wouldn't be so special because back home in Europe, they celebrated a good harvest all the time. And originally, the Native Americans weren't even invited. But, like Americans today, they realized they showed up because they thought the Pilgrims were under attack because, like Americans today, they were shooting their guns. And they brought 5 deer with them. They celebrated. They made like a kind of treaty to like support each other, to help each other, especially against other Native Americans that would want to kick the colonies out. And as far as we know, the treaty did not last too long. It lasted a while until more colonies start to be made, and they need to. And the other ones that weren't so peaceful, like the Pilgrims, started wanting to kick the Native Americans out. But pretty much, in a short tale, that's the history of Thanksgiving. That's hurry before the sound room starts telling me to hurry up, and back to the desk.
That was really interesting.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
I didn't know some of that.
Yeah, I didn't know they meant to land in New York instead of Massachusetts.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, that's all for today. I'm Sophie.
And I've been Karsten.
Bye, Grizzlies.